The old schoolhouse stood on a hill. Wind rattled the windows. Shadows danced in the empty hallways. In a room at the end of the hall, a single desk sat by the window. Empty. Always empty.
Sarah, a bright-eyed girl new to the school, felt drawn to this desk. It was old, scarred, and different from the others. Its wooden surface was worn smooth, as if countless hands had rested upon it. She felt a strange pull, a curiosity she couldn't ignore.
One afternoon, she dared to approach it. The air grew cold. A shiver ran down her spine. As she quickly pulled her hand away, she noticed something tucked beneath the desk's lid. The notebook was filled with spidery handwriting, each letter meticulously crafted. The words spoke of loneliness, of being invisible, and of a deep longing for connection.
Who was this invisible student, hidden in plain sight?
Day after day, Sarah found herself drawn back to the desk, unable to resist. She read entry after entry, each one painting a vivid picture of a life lived in the shadows. The invisible student wrote of their love for poetry, the way words painted beautiful pictures in their mind. They wrote of their dreams of becoming a writer, of sharing their heartfelt stories with the world.
Sarah felt a deep connection to this unseen writer. She felt compelled to give a voice to this forgotten student, to bring their poignant story to light.
As Sarah delved deeper into the notebook, her dreams became haunted. She dreamt of cold classrooms and empty hallways. She dreamt of a solitary figure, always just out of sight, their voice a hushed whisper lost in the wind. The line between dreams and reality began to blur. She'd wake in a cold sweat, the notebook clutched in her hand.
Her friends noticed the change in her. Her laughter was less frequent, her smile strained. When they asked what was wrong, she couldn't find the words to explain the strange connection she felt to the notebook and the invisible student it spoke of.
The school, once a place of learning and laughter, now felt different. Sarah was torn between her desire to unravel the mystery of the notebook and the growing fear that was taking root in her heart. One blustery afternoon, as Sarah sat at the old desk reading the notebook, she felt a cold breath on her neck. The air crackled with static. And then she heard it. A name, whispered softly, barely audible above the wind howling outside.
Samuel, the voice whispered, faint and ethereal.
It seemed to come from the walls themselves, imbued with a sadness that sent shivers down Sarah's spine. Clutching the notebook to her chest, Sarah searched for the name within its pages. Page after page, she scanned the spidery writing, her heart pounding in her chest.
Finally, she found it. Tucked away in the corner of a page, almost lost in the swirl of ink, was the name Samuel.
Samuel's file was thin, his time at the school short-lived. He was a quiet boy, the records stated, often overlooked and forgotten.
It's like his story, his pain, his loneliness seeped into the very walls, waiting for someone to listen.
She discovered that Samuel had been a gifted writer, his poems praised by his teachers. But he was also painfully shy, struggling to connect with his peers. He poured his heart into his writing, his words a reflection of his loneliness and his longing to be seen.
His poems, they're so full of longing. He just wanted to be seen.
The weight of Samuel's unspoken words settled heavily on Sarah's heart. She vowed to honor his memory, to give his words the voice they never had in life.
I will honor you, Samuel. Your words will be heard.
Inspired by Samuel's heartfelt words and determined to share his poignant story, Sarah decided to organize a meaningful school event. She envisioned a night of poetry and remembrance, a celebration of Samuel's life, his passion for the written word, and the impact he had on those around him.
Mrs. Hawthorne, I have an idea. What if we organize a night of poetry to honor Samuel and his love for writing? It could be a way for us to connect with his spirit.
She shared her idea with Mrs. Hawthorne, who was immediately supportive and saw the potential for a deeply moving event.
That's a wonderful idea, Sarah. I believe it will touch many hearts and bring our community closer together.
Word spread throughout the school, and soon, students and teachers alike were eager to participate, each wanting to contribute in their own way. Sarah spent countless hours poring over Samuel's notebook, carefully selecting poems that spoke to his heart and his unique experiences.
These poems, they need to be heard. And maybe we can write our own, inspired by his story and the emotions he captured.
She encouraged her classmates to write their own poems, inspired by Samuel's story and their own experiences with feeling unseen or unheard, creating a tapestry of shared emotions.
Sarah, this is amazing. I've never felt so connected to someone I've never met. It's like we are all part of his journey now.
The night of the event, the school auditorium was filled to capacity, buzzing with anticipation and a sense of unity. Students, teachers, and members of the community gathered, drawn together by Samuel's story and the promise of a night to remember. Sarah, standing on stage, felt a surge of emotion as she looked out at the faces in the crowd. This was for Samuel and for everyone who felt his words.
This is for you, Samuel. We see you and we honor your memory.
And in that moment, Samuel's words bridged the gap across time, connecting hearts and souls and ensuring he would never be forgotten. His legacy lived on through the voices of those he inspired. As Sarah read Samuel's words aloud, the auditorium fell silent. His poems, filled with longing and a yearning for connection, resonated deeply with the audience.
Throughout the evening, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that Samuel was there with them. She felt his presence in the stillness between words, in the shared breath of the audience, in the flickering candlelight that illuminated the stage.
As the final poem was read, a sense of peace settled over the room. It was as if Samuel's spirit, so long trapped in the shadows, had finally found release. The echoes of his words lingered in the air, a reminder that even the quietest voices can leave an enduring mark on the world. After the event, as Sarah made her way back to the now familiar classroom, she noticed a change in the atmosphere, a subtle shift that was hard to miss. The air, once heavy with sadness and unspoken words, now felt lighter, as if a weight had been lifted, allowing a sense of peace to settle in.
Looking around the room, she noticed something she hadn't before, a detail that had previously escaped her attention. A faint, warm light emanated from the desk, casting a gentle glow on the surrounding area, creating an almost magical ambience.
She reached the old desk by the window and gently placed Samuel's notebook inside, feeling a deep connection to the past. As her fingers brushed against the worn leather, she felt a surge of gratitude, a sense of completion, knowing she had fulfilled her promise. She had kept her promise to Samuel, giving his words a voice and his spirit a chance to find peace, a peace that resonated within her as well. Sarah left the classroom that night with a heart full of emotion, a mix of sadness and fulfillment. She carried with her the weight of Samuel's story, a reminder to always look beyond the surface, to listen for the whispers of the forgotten, and to find beauty in the most unexpected places, even in the quiet corners of a classroom. The next morning, Sarah returned to the classroom, drawn back to the desk by the window. She half expected to find it cold and empty as she had so many times before. But as she approached, she was met with a surprising warmth.
The desk, once a source of chills and unease, now radiated a comforting heat.
She reached out to touch the surface, expecting the familiar icy shock. Instead, she was met with a gentle warmth, as if the desk itself held the memory of Samuel's spirit, no longer cold and alone, but filled with a newfound peace.
The classroom itself seemed different. Light streamed through the windows, casting dancing patterns on the floor.
Sarah sat at the desk, her fingers tracing the worn grooves in the wood. She imagined Samuel sitting there, lost in his thoughts, his pen scratching furiously across the pages of his notebook. But instead of sadness, she felt a sense of hope. The story of Samuel and his notebook became a part of the school's lore, passed down from one generation of students to the next, each adding their own chapter to the tale.
The old desk by the window, once a symbol of loneliness and isolation, became a place of remembrance, a reminder to cherish every voice and to embrace the power of storytelling, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant.
Sarah, forever changed by her encounter with Samuel's spirit, went on to become a writer. Her words imbued with a deep empathy and a passion for giving voice to the unheard, those who felt invisible. She carried with her the lessons she had learned from Samuel's story, using her platform to advocate for the marginalized and to shine a light on the often invisible struggles of others, ensuring their stories were told.
The notebook remained in the school, a treasured artifact displayed in a glass case in the library, a symbol of hope and resilience.
And so, the story of the invisible student lived on, not as a haunting tale, but as an inspiring testament to the power of human connection and the enduring nature of the human spirit, reminding everyone that every story matters.